love how I can just give you this mic. I feel like a legit interviewer. This is a feeling I wanted to feel for a long time. Hello, welcome back. Today we have a very special guest. This is my friend, Leslie.
Hi. Hi. I'm Leslie. We know each other through church.
I've been wanting to have guests on this channel for a while where I invite different voices, different people living in Korea currently to discuss some subjects that I find interesting about Korean culture, Korean language. I'm just gonna ask a few questions to Leslie to kind of introduce her on this channel. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you ready, kids?
Yes, I'm ready.
This is kind of like a base question I'll ask like everyone. Where did you grow up? Where did you live? What do you feel like is your identifying culture, country?
Ooh. I'm from the United States, the very middle of the United States, in a place called Missouri. Though I wasn't born there, but I grew up there.
Midwest.
It's a very small town. It was like a mining town, actually.
If you ever watched the Barbie movie, Princess and the Pauper, they go inside this mine and they do this dance. Do you remember that? They go into the mine and they're like,
So get ready with the roses and stand by with the champagne.
My life was exactly like that movie.
Barbie, Princess and the Pauper took place in the Midwest.
It's very different from bustling Seoul.
Small town girls in a small town world. Second question, what brought you to Korea and how long have you lived here?
Where I grew up, it was very mono-ethnic, monocultural. I didn't know a lot about other cultures. When I went to college, I discovered anthropology. Anthropology is the study of humankind, like us. It made me feel so free to know like, oh wow, there are people in the world living differently from me. All the things that I thought like, oh, this is the way to be successful, this is the way to look good. Those things didn't apply everywhere in the world. So mostly just started with a general, oh, I like culture. And then I heard some presentations from Korean students. I was like, I hate this, but love at first sight. Kind of like, this is interesting, I want to learn more. And I started to study more and then I never stopped.
And here she is.
And now I live here.
What are your expectations for Korea? Does that meet what you experience here? How
Ooh.
you feel now?
Well, expectations are really tricky. I think when I was first exploring Korean culture, I knew from my studies, I shouldn't think of a person or a place as anything more than like a person or a place. That Korea, like the United States and any other country, has like nuanced issues. People with really complex thoughts, and it wasn't just what I was presented, like the K-culture concept. I had expectations in my heart and then my mind was like, they might not really be met. It's like, I know that things will surprise me and I know that I won't be satisfied in every area. That expectation was met. Over the years, it's been about 4 years, it's changed a lot. Exchange students don't really know the culture or the language and you're getting used to things, it's really fun. And then getting my master's in Korean studies, they're like, let's talk about the birth rate issue in Korea. Let's talk about this big policy issue. And I'm like, oh, these are heavy subjects, these aren't K-pop. Though we also studied K-pop, relations between fans and artists. But like, yeah, my expectations and my experience of Korea have changed a lot for my time here.
I was just about to ask you about your master's. Can you just give like a brief summary of what that is about?
So I went to a graduate school of international studies. You could look into like policy, international relations, and diplomacy, or you could focus more on society and culture, which is the path that I took. I took classes in, it's called parasocial relationships to be exact, but like fan and idol relationships, how that's affected people around the world and why people might be interested.
Now that I'm hearing about these classes, now I really want to learn from what you learned.
I can send you some articles.
Okay, okay.
There was this one quote someone wrote about people who are interested in Korean studies that made me feel kind of like a fool. I was like, oh, first you're interested in K-pop and then you come to Korea and then you start to have Korean friends and then you learn the language and then you get a degree in it and then you work in Korean company. And I'm like, oh. So has my entire existence been laid out before me?
What have been some of your favorite as well as your most challenging parts of living in Korea?
Most challenging parts recently because of the pandemic, that's been really hard and I'm still getting out of the mindset of isolation. 3/4 of my grad degree were done online. Because I'm a moral perfectionist, I wanted to keep everyone else safe by isolating myself, even though I didn't know if I was sick. Yeah, that caused some issues. It changed my perception of Korea, not for anyone else's fault. If I had been in the United States with my family and friends, they would have pulled me out more. Yeah, anyway. That's more of a personal answer, so I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you mention the good part?
Good
What was
part.
your good part?
Oh, good parts, yes.
I mean, you can say more bad things about Korea too.
No,
so.
no. Good things for Korea. I'm really stimulated by everything I see. It's like, what is going on over there? I want to know more about that. The other thing I really like is the art. It's very artistic. There's so many cool things happening.
The contemporary Korean art scene is getting really big.
All right, now what we're gonna do is take some Korean words. These words I chose specifically have no direct English equivalent. I don't mean just words that can't be translated. I mean words that don't have like a single English word equivalent. It might be a combination of two words or like a phrase. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because language is very interesting. The more I hear Korean and then try to translate into English, the more I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't really work. Or this kind of tells me something interesting about the culture. So the first category I have, relationship/social life, Eesanghyeong.
Ah,
Do you know what it is?
yeah.
What is it?
Means your ideal type.
Yes, your ideal type. Is that like a common thing you would hear in English?
You know what it means if someone tells you, oh, they're my ideal type. But I was never used to hearing it when I was first in the US. Like when I came to Korea, one of the Korean friends was like, okay, so who's your ideal type? And I'm like, what does that mean? How do I answer such a question? No one's ever asked me this before. It was
Right?
very strange. Yeah.
See, this is why it's good to have different voices, because I, being Korean, having heard this word so many times, I just automatically translate it to ideal type. But I don't know if that's such a common phrase in other...
It's just
Context.
weird to talk about like who's your ideal type.
Like, these are like dictionary words. I didn't include like slang or like abbreviations, which is also very common in Korean. Generally, when we say Eesanghyeong, they're talking about like physical appearance, like your ideal type of look.
Yeah, but we're not going to tell you ours.
No, not today. Some of these words are kind of like paired together. Yeonha, Yeonsang. So ha and sang are low, high. So a lot of Korean words are based off like Chinese characters.
Oh, like younger than you or older than you?
Yes.
I saw a TikTok of this. Girls were choosing if they liked older or younger.
yeah.
So this is like a dating term. Yeonha means like younger than you. Yeonsang means older than you.
Would that be included in I forgot the word. Eesanghyeong. Like if someone's like, what is your Eesanghyeong? Like would
good
you
question.
include, oh, they look like this and also they would be older or they'd be younger than me?
There's a word that means you look younger than you actually are. Like your face looks young. What is that word? Oh, 동안. A face that looks younger than you actually are. This one you probably know. Seonbae, Hoobae. Very common.
How to describe though? That's something that's hard in English. Older classmate, younger classmates, or not just classmate, but like in a company. Someone who entered something before you is Seonbae, and then Hoobae is someone who entered after you. It doesn't have to do with age.
I think in the work context, yes. In the school context, it's definitely like an age thing. If you have like alumni, say, from your school, but they were older than you, you'd be like, oh, this 선배. This word, we hear it so much, but I actually realized there is no, like, tell me if I'm wrong. 부자.
Yeah, no. Rich person?
부자 is rich person. I don't think there's a like single word means the same thing in English.
And if you use it in the same context in English, like, oh, they're a rich person. Like, it's kind of more casual here. If people
yeah,
use
yeah.
buja, like, oh,
Yeah.
buja, like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
what
They
a
have a lot of
buja.
money.
Yeah.
But if someone says, like, oh, yeah, they're a rich person, I'm a rich person, you're like, okay. Like, thanks for sharing.
There are some words that are used very like casually here that are not used casually in English. So the reason I thought of 부자 is actually because I wanted to talk about 모녀. So 모녀 and 부자 actually you can get confused because 부자 is like the Chinese character version of father son and 모녀 is mother daughter. If there's a 모녀, it means they're a mother and a daughter. It's talking about their relationship. There's a lot of like family words like 부부. 부부 is like a married couple. 부모 is like parent. For example, the drama 부부의 세계, World of the Married. Literally, the word is 부부, which is like married people.
I'm learning so much.
형제, 자매, nammae. They all mean siblings, but depending on the gender. 형제 is two brothers, or just brothers. 자매 is sisters. nammae is a brother and a sister. You and your brother, you are a nammae.
Yeah, I have a brother. We're nammae. But we have, we're sisters, we're brothers. So you can translate those ones into one sentence or one word. Yeah, brother, sister. I don't think we have one for that.
Siblings. You have an all-encompassing word.
Leslie doesn't know English.
Siblings, like, that can be just,
Right,
like, you don't know what gender they are.
right. It's like I have one sibling. Okay, is it a boy or a girl sibling?
But here it's very clear. You are hyeongjae, you are brothers. You are jammeh, you are sisters. You are nammae, you are both. Next word is hyodo.
Doing good to parents.
Yes.
Hyo 알아요.
Hyodo.
Right. It's confusion term of like being filial to your parents, right?
See, she knows all the like language roots. hyodo is a word that means filial respect, but also you're kind of like repaying your parents. Example is like getting a good job. and like buying them a house. I don't know if people actually do that nowadays. Houses are expensive, but something that you do for your parents out of like gratitude, love, and respect. Son or daughter who does hyodo, so hyoja or hyeonha.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of concept in my Western society where I grew up.
I do feel like that's one of the more particular Korean words. Next one, you probably
yeah.
heard, noonchi.
눈치
What is your definition of noonchi?
Like perception, sort of. What people are thinking or like their gaze. But like inner gaze, not always just like actual gaze, but like, because noon means eye.
Noon is eye. Another word Koreans actually use is sense. Kind of reminds you of like common sense. You kind of know the social code or the social norms of like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. It also sends like people's emotions or how you should be acting around them. It's like, it's very nuanced term. It can be used in a lot of different ways. You can be called someone with no noonchi or with good noonchi. Generally, if you hear that you don't have noonchi, it's not a very good thing.
I think I have too much noonchi. I wish I had less noonchi. I'm very aware of what people around me, how comfortable they are, what I should be doing in this situation with people around me.
Next one, I kind of chose two words, really similar, but a little bit different. First word is baeryuh. Second word is yahngbo.
Ew, never mind. I'm not gonna say. Like it's being considerate of others. baeryuh. 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 I'm not good at that one yet. Yahngbo is like to yield.
So yahngbo is used in like driving too. Like if you let the other driver go first, you just yangbod. Or like if there's an elderly person on the bus and you give them your seat, you yangbod. Like there'll be signs in like public transport where they say like, let's baeryuh these certain groups of people. The pregnant women seats, elderly people seats.
It's more like a heart feeling. Yahngbo could just be like an action.
Putting their needs first. There's also an element, I think, in both of these words of like sacrifice, like giving up something so that they can be more comfortable.
I feel like that goes with noonchi. Everything's connected to me. Everything is connected.
Everything's connected. Last word is miryeon.
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 I don't know this word actually.
Having leftover feelings for someone, do you still have miryeon for your ex?
Leftover feelings. Wow, interesting. We just say, do you still have feelings?
Next words are related to work. 사회생활 basically means your work life. It sounds really similar to 사생활, but that actually means your personal life. 사회생활 to me encompasses not just like your work life, but kind of like your role in society. That kind of old-fashioned phrase when you say you're entering society. When you enter your 사회생활, you're learning how to navigate coworkers, bosses, friends, and all of that. The drama that I watched recently talked about this, 2521. Nam Ji-hyuk's character says his 사회생활 and his 사생활 are like getting mixed up. He's working for his girlfriend's mom. So clearly it's gonna be some business, personal stuff mixed up.
당연하지.
Next word is 꼰대.
꼰대 알아.
You know 꼰대?
Yeah, I know
Really?
꼰대. Yeah.
I feel like that's less common.
Usually it's put on an older person, like you're not really with the time, but imposing yourself on others, but you're kind of out of it. Like it's an endearing term, kind of. To me, it sounds endearing. Is it not?
It's not a very positive term.
Ah, okay.
It's heavily associated with like those old-time Koreans who think very much like in those old-fashioned ways. They just yell at people and blah blah blah. So it just doesn't sound very pleasant. 꼰대. These next two words all end with the letter 근, which is related to work. 야근, 퇴근, 출근. And I added a fun one. 칼퇴근. 출근 is going to work. I am 출근ing. 퇴근. I am getting off of work. 야근 is basically when you work overtime. 야 is night, so 야근, you work at night. 칼퇴근. 칼 means knife. 칼퇴근 means as soon as that 6 o'clock or whenever your finishing time, as soon as that time hits, you're just out of the office. Like you're gone. You're like cutting your time with a knife. I don't know why they call it that.
Because that's what you're supposed to leave. I don't know, like you're cutting off what should be there.
Now I feel like it's kind of used more loosely, but I feel like it can also be used in a not very positive way. You leave work on time? How dare you?
Nerve.
Should have more noonchi. It is very much a thing where like you're not supposed to technically leave work before your boss. I don't know if that's a Korean thing.
It's hard for me to say anything about Korean versus US stuff because US is so big. It can be versus what I grew up with. What I grew up with is that you leave work on time unless there's like this huge project or you have a really high position and it's just kind of expected. But there's not expectation that newbies especially, like you gotta stay overtime and we're not even gonna tell you, but we just expect you to. I didn't grow up with being taught that at all or having my parents experience that.
Here, I feel like the newer you are or the younger you are, the less power you have over when you can leave. Socially, not legally. Legally, you can leave as soon as your time is done. The beauty/fashion or appearance word, 미녀 or 미남, and another popular word is 훈남.
Like a beauty.
Yes.
A beautiful woman.
미녀 is a beautiful woman. 미남 is a good-looking man. So I heard the word 훈남 before, and I didn't know the difference. So I looked it up. Not really a very significant difference. 훈남 is like also a good-looking man, but in more like if 미남 is kind of like a very generic, oh, like they're like handsome. 훈남 would be like they kind of have something kind of like charming or like endearing about them, mainly their face. I just wanted to bring that up because 미녀, for example, it's like literally a word specifically for beautiful woman. Well, you have to take two words to make. In Korean, there's always one word for it. So we like to be 빨리빨리. This one you hear a lot when you're shopping in Korea, especially if you go on a lot of online shopping, called yo리. Do you know what this means?
No.
Have you heard this word before?
처음 들어.
처음 들었어. So yo리 is kind of a very vague term to express a certain visual aesthetic, specifically in women's fashion. When girl is like wearing something so like oversized that they look kind of like skinny. If that makes sense.
Oh.
If an outfit or like a piece of clothing, if it says in the description, 여리여리한 look, usually like a oversized shirt or like a dress that's very like loose fitting. Basically, it's saying it'll make you look skinny.
Oh, those don't work for me.
Clearly, it's a term that can only apply to very specific types of bodies. They want to appeal to people as in like this will make you look this way, but it's also very much like a clear physical aesthetic.
I'll have to look out for it next time I go. Yeah, I go shopping. Just be like, what does this say? Oh, yori. I learned that from my friend. Like, good.
Could not think of an English equivalent for this word.
No, there's.
It just kind of implies in the meaning that like skinny is good. Like that's like a certain aesthetic to look up to.
Where I grew up, people might wear like an oversized something or other on top of what they're wearing, but that was never to achieve like, oh, now I look so thin, or at least not. We didn't have a word for that. It was just kind of like, I don't know, like I look like I'm not trying too hard. It's like I don't really care so much about fashion. But I see this more in Korea where people wear like really wide pants and really wide dresses and really wide shirts.
On my Instagram, I get some like Korean fashion memes. I'm gonna do a video about Korean memes specifically. There's a lot of ones where they tell you like how to dress for your body type. Make yourself look this way and this way.
Yeah, my body type is not like Koreans, which I've noticed over the years more. And so I feel very outside of it. Even if I've been here for a while, I'm like, I know that clothes will not always look the same on me. That's cool. I don't know. I don't really feel affected by it as much.
I mean, it's definitely like targeted for Koreans who fit that description because not every Korean does. So we covered many words today. We hope you enjoyed this video, learning some new Korean words with us. We'll see you again next time. All right. Bye-bye.